ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع الهدى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters in Islam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His mercy and blessings upon all of you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides constantly and keeps us in imitation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in all of our deeds. Today, brothers and sisters, we have a guest here. This is Mr. Abdurahman. Inshallah, he will be joining us, inshallah, in our discussion about Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beautiful names and beautiful attributes. Okay? Remember previously we talked about the Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's lordship, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's right to be worshipped. And today we are going to talk about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in regards to His beautiful names and beautiful attributes. So, what does this mean when we say we have the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oneness of Allah in regards to His names and attributes? This means that the Muslim, he must have faith in everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us about. Everything Allah informed us about Himself in the Quran and in where? The authentic Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad regarding Allah's names, regarding Allah's attributes, His characteristics, and regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's what? Actions. Okay? There are some things that Allah affirms for Himself and other things that Allah what? Negates from Himself. So we affirm whatever Allah and His Messenger affirms for Himself, and we also negate whatever Allah and His Messenger negate from themselves without any distinction, whether they come in the Quran or whether they come in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. But most importantly is that we don't distort, we don't change, we don't alter their meanings. And the reason that we have faith in this and we believe this is because everything that we know about Allah is from Allah's speech. When Allah talks about us, when Allah talks about Himself in the Quran and He talks to us, and He tells us, well, Allah is like this. Allah has eyes. Allah has hands. Allah has a shin. Allah sees everything. Allah hears everything. The only way we would know about that is through what? Is through the Quran and through the Sunnah, which is revelation from Allah. Okay? So we know that from Allah's speech regarding His names and attributes is from the informative type of speech. Okay? Informative type of speech from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the creation, which revolves around two things, either negation or affirmation. So we as Muslims, we must have complete faith in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us about Himself, and we do not disbelieve in anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us or anything that His Messenger told us as well. You understand that?
Yes.
So what does that mean?
We should
What does that mean?
we should believe in the Quran.
Okay. But if Allah, He says in the Quran that Allah, He is Al-Basir. Al-Basir. Al-Basir means Allah sees everything. What does that mean? That we affirm that Allah has the ability to what?
He has the ability to see us.
To see everything, right?
Yes.
And then we also negate the opposite of that, which is what?
We cannot hide from Him.
We can't hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also that Allah, He isn't blind. That Allah isn't blind. If Allah sees everything, this means that He's also not blind. That nothing is hidden from His what?
Eyes.
His eyes, His sight. Very good. So the second reason, brothers and sisters, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most knowledgeable about Himself and others. Allah is the most knowledgeable about Himself and others. And the best of speech is whose speech?
Allah's.
Allah's speech. Very good. It is not permissible for us to contradict or conflict with anything that He told us about Himself by making alterations or disabling the meanings, by disabling the meanings, you will find that there are some people of innovations. Some people of innovations, they add things onto the religion that wasn't there during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They will say that Allah, He is Al-Basir. Al-Basir means what? The one who sees everything, right? The one who sees everything. They'll say Allah is Al-Basir, but He can't see. That's strange, right? It doesn't make sense. So this is called disabling the meanings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names. And this is an innovation in the religion. And this is for those who have gone to extremes in the religion. And we are against what? Extremism. We are against extremism. We follow the what? The moderate, the balanced path of who? Of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right?
Yeah.
Good. Third thing, also because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the most knowledgeable. He's the most knowledgeable, right?
Yes.
He's the most knowledgeable human being that set foot on the face of the earth. And the only way he knew about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was through what? Was through revelation. Who brought him the revelation? Who brought the revelation from Allah to Muhammad?
Angel Jibreel.
Angel Jibreel. Very good. So the only way that the Prophet Muhammad knew about Allah, okay, is what Allah informed him of Allah's names and His attributes. And it is obligatory upon us, it is necessary and obligatory upon every Muslim that we take everything which came in the authentic Sunnah regarding Allah's what? Regarding Allah's names and attributes. Also, we believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His names and attributes is because Allah has no partner or no what? Associate. Allah doesn't have a partner. He cannot be compared to the creation. Allah can never be compared to anything in the creation. And hence so it is obligatory upon us to leave off questioning, well, how are Allah's attributes? How are Allah's hands? How are Allah's eyes? Unless we have something that explains how they are, where? In the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are very, very important principles, okay, that the Muslim must know and must understand in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and beautiful attributes. So now you may ask, well, why don't Ahl Sunnah ask about how are Allah's names and attributes? What do you think?
The Quran.
Why don't Ahl Sunnah, why don't the Muslims, those who are striving to follow the correct Aqidah based upon the Quran and the Sunnah, why don't they ask about how are Allah's names and attributes? Because there's no way we can understand them, right? Because Allah's essence is seen or unseen?
Seen.
You can see Allah in this world?
No, unseen.
Unseen. Allah's essence is what? Unseen. Nobody will be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this lifetime. We'll only be able to see Allah where? On the day of resurrection. So Allah's essence is unseen, and speech about attributes, speech about characteristics revolves around what? Revolves around and is built upon speech regarding His essence. So if we don't know the true essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then how can we know His characteristics and how can we know His attributes except through the way He describes it to us? Also, secondly, as Allah says in the Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, that there is nothing comparable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is what? He is the all-hearing, He is the all-seeing. Allah has no comparison, and He cannot be compared to anything in the creation. So our imaginations cannot fathom or ponder or contemplate how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is regarding His certain characteristics and certain attributes. Also, thirdly, because no authentic statements have reached us clarifying the qualities of Allah's attributes, so one must not search for how they are, but he must believe in their existence. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's descriptions and attributes and characteristics have a kayfiyah, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to us how they are, then we believe in it. And even if He didn't reveal to us how they are, we still believe in it and affirm it as well. Also, so what is the methodology? What is the methodology of the people of the Sunnah, Ahl Sunnah, regarding Allah's names and attributes? First of all, most important, Allah's attributes are not subject for changing, for alteration, meaning that we don't affirm anything unless there comes what?
Authentic proof.
Authentic proof from where? We have 3 authentic proofs in Islam, right? What are they? The first one is what?
Quran,
Second one?
Sunnah,
Third one?
Aqidah.
Consensus. Consensus of who? The companions. Consensus of the companions. So the proofs and evidences in Islam are 3. What are they? Quran, Sunnah, and consensus of the companions. What does that mean? That means that nobody can come to you and say, Abdurahman, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to say this, you have to say that. Unless they bring evidence from the Quran, evidence from the Sunnah, and evidence from the consensus of the companions. Got it?
Yep.
Good job. Secondly, the methodology of Ahl Sunnah regarding Allah's names and attributes, it is not permissible to describe Allah with an attribute which did not come in the Quran and Sunnah, even if it had a correct meaning. Even if it had a correct meaning. Okay? Another important principle, that many of Allah's attributes can be seen and understood by our intellects. For example, knowledge, wisdom, ability, mercy, forgiveness. These attributes can be observed in Allah's creation. So this is evidence that Allah possesses these characteristics, because the action is a proof for many qualities of the doer and the actor. So by observing the creation of Allah, we see the traces of perfection, the traces of care, the traces of concern, the traces of creation, the traces of organization, which no doubt is a proof that the Creator is all able, all knowledgeable, all wise, and all merciful. Similarly, speech, right? Speech, speaking, listening, sight. We could prove that these are qualities of Allah by observing and keeping in mind what Allah negates from Himself from deficient attributes. For example, when Allah negates from Himself deficiencies, this means that we establish the complete opposite as being perfect and complete, like we mentioned earlier. If Allah is al-Basir, the all-seeing, and so now we affirm that Allah sees everything, right?
Yes.
So we negate that Allah what? Doesn't see, right? We negate the fact that Allah doesn't see. We negate the fact or the claim that Allah is blind. If we say that Allah is al-Alim, all knowledgeable, means that He knows what? Everything. So we negate the fact that what? He's ignorant, right? If Allah is as-Sami', as-Sami' means what? Allah hears everything. So we negate the fact that Allah is what? Deaf. Okay? So if we affirm these characteristics for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we negate its complete what? Its complete opposite. So for example, from these deficiencies which we negate from Allah are deafness, blindness, being dumb, not having the ability to speak, and we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from these type of claims that people ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah negates Himself of having these characteristics. So this means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-seeing, all-hearing, and speaks. So whatever attribute comes to us, and we have no way of establishing it except for the Quran and Sunnah, then what? What do? We believe in it. We believe in it. And lastly, we are certain and we affirm that whatever comes to us authentically from Allah and His Messenger, then a sound, healthy intellect cannot deny it or negate it, nor conflict with it or contradict it. Nor can the intellect say that it is impossible to occur, even if it was something difficult and complex in understanding. So this was an introduction to the belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes, which is one of the most important aspects of Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this aspect is where we find that many of the Muslims have gone astray and have misunderstandings regarding it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you this evening, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in beneficial knowledge and knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's oneness. And we'd like to thank our guest Abdurahman for joining us today. Inshallah, we hope that you can join us in the future. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and grant you goodness and increase you in knowledge and increase you of knowing the correct aqeedah, the aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah. Jazakallah khair wa barakallahu feek. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.